And welcome back to Cova Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel wherever you are tuning in. We thank you for doing so all over the web. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and of course, all the different social media platforms from IG to Twitter, X, and Facebook. And we're so privileged to be joined by a Hall of Famer. She's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You see her work all the time, NBC Sports, Pro Football Talk. Check it out. Also, give her a follow on the X, or some still call it Twitter, too. She is at NFL Charean. Charean Williams, so kind of join us. Charean, good to see you. Happy New Year. We're 17 days into 2025, I guess now, or 18 days in, whatever it is. And we've got divisional football playoff action. This is really one of the best weekends of the year, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, these are the games you look forward to, and I think they're matchups that, a lot of us saw coming earlier in the year, especially that Bills-Ravens game. I think it's something we all wanted to see with the two MVP favorites going off head-to-head. So MVP votes are in, so they can't change anything, but I know it means a lot to both of them, especially considering their playoff records in this round have not been great. So gives them both a chance to take another step in their careers and do something that they haven't done, which is win the AFC title and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that Kansas City team that we talked about last year at the Super Bowl has been in the way of everybody. It feels like in the AFC, whether it's Lamar Jackson and his Ravens, Josh Allen and his Bills, and whoever else there ever since they've taken over. And they're trying to become just the second team ever to reach 7 consecutive conference championship games to go with what New England did with 8 in a row during that Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era. Let's take them in chronological order, though. I want to go to that one at the very end because it's the best one, I think. Yeah. But this Chiefs-Texans game to start here. Houston's never been to the conference championship round, but what a performance they had after it was a listless start. C.J. Stroud rolls to his right, that 3rd and 16 play, I think it was. He hits it, changed the whole game around. Justin Herbert didn't play as well. That offensive line couldn't block, and what a weapon Nico Collins is. But outside of Nico Collins, Charean, do they, A, have enough explosiveness with what Kansas City is now bringing to the table because they have some guys getting healthy? They had the bye week. And B, this Chiefs defense is mighty good still, like it was last year. Can they deal with Chris Jones and that whole defensive front for the entire 60 minutes of a ball game? What do you think?
Well, they didn't play that long ago, and the result was obviously the Chiefs won, but it was a closer game, I think, than many expected it to be. My worry for the Chiefs is they've been off over 3 weeks now. They played, their starters have, because they didn't play week 18. So they haven't played a meaningful game, and I'm just not sure that you can duplicate game readiness with what you do in practice. You can't do it, which is why when we see teams open up the season sometimes who haven't played in the preseason and they're not crisp. And I think this could be the case with this Chiefs team, just not crisp. You look at how long it's been. Chris Jones ended the season with an injury, how long it's been since he's played. So I do have some questions there about the Chiefs. That's my only question. To your point, this is the best Chiefs defense that we've seen on these particular teams, on the Patrick Mahomes era. This Chiefs defense has won them games this year. They are very, very good. They are very underrated. They are very underappreciated, probably everywhere except in Kansas City for what they've done this season. They're going to carry this team. And we all know Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but this defense is legit good. And, I understand most Super Bowl champions have a good defense. They don't just get there with the quarterback, and it's been that way with the Chiefs. But I just think this Chiefs defense is special. Texans defense, though, played really well last week. So this could be a low-scoring game. I don't know what the over-under is, but whatever it is, I think it would probably go under in this game. I do expect the Chiefs to win, as everyone does. But I think the Texans are going to keep this game close late, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Interesting perspective, and I'll get to you with the rest versus rust angle because I think that leads us into the next game in a moment here with the Lions taking on the Red Hot Commanders with the rookie quarterback who may very well get Rookie of the Year in Jane Daniels. But on Kansas City for a second, you're so right because you get all the talk, certainly the tabloids, the attention with Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the headliners. But Andy Reid with that defense led by Steve Spagnuolo on the coordinator side of things with Jones and then Nick Bolton and Trent McDuffie, all those guys. They're just so underappreciated. In Houston's eyes, in order to win this game, is it going to take more of the defense or the offense stepping above its norm in your eyes, Charean? Because C.J. Stroud, it looked like for a while there he was kind of not performing well, that scary injury to one of his main receivers. We all saw that late. But you think it's going to be on the defense or the offense to kind of pull the upset if they have a chance, which we'll have to step up more?
Yeah, I think special teams and that defense are going to have to produce some turnovers or in special teams game, they're going to have to produce some long return. In other words, they're going to have some short fields. There's no question about that. If you're asking the Texans to drive 75 or 80 yards or even 70 yards consistently, that's not going to happen. That's not going to be the case. CJ Stroud hasn't been as good as his rookie season. You're right. They have one explosive guy on their team. They haven't been able to run with Joe Mixon since early this season, or run as well as what they ran early this season. So yeah, it's going to take that defense producing some turnovers or special teams to set them up for some short fields that they're able to cash in with some short drives. Otherwise, they're not going to score enough points to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, this again, we really miss Tank Dell for sure. Now, what Kansas City can provide here, and we'll see if we do get a Chiefs-Bills, Chiefs-Ravens. But let's go to the NFC now. That Saturday night game, Lions trying to get to the NFC Championship game and host it for the first time in the franchise's history. Dan Campbell, what a job he's done turning that thing around with Jared Goff at the quarterback. They've had so many injuries, Charean, on defense. Of course, the headline injury being Aiden Hutchinson, but they've patched it together with another brilliant defensive coordinator there, and Aaron Glenn, who's up for some coaching jobs with Washington here. I get the sense that Glenn and Campbell and company are saying, all right, Jaden Daniels is spectacular. We can't stop him, but we're going to make it harder for the Brian Robinsons, the Austin Eckler's, the Terry McLaurin to get off in this game, and they just can't match us. Bottom line, is this boiled down to, can Washington stop the run because they're, 30th in the league? And now they get David Montgomery potentially back to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, who was just unbelievable in that finale versus Minnesota. Is this a close game, upset alert, or do you think the Lions roar here?
Well, I think it's an upset alert. And opposite of what I just said about the Texans Chiefs, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I mean, these two coaches go for it on fourth down, as we know, all the time. There may be no punts in this game, seriously. I mean, they just may say, all right, our defense can't stop them, so we just got to keep going here.
Unless it's 4th and 20, then they'll have to punt.
Well, yeah. But that was pretty much Washington's plan last week, and it worked, despite the times that they got stopped. What were they, 3 or 5 on fourth down, but even the 2 they got stopped on ended up, getting them back in position to score again. So, I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I think the Commanders are going to be in it until the end, and the Lions should not want that based on the Commanders' history this season of games going to the last play, and it usually goes their way on the last play. So the Lions need to put this game away. You're right. They need to run away with this, but it's just going to be really hard to do, I think. They are getting healthier on defense. I know the week off probably helped them. Now, unlike the Chiefs, their starters had to play in week 18 because they had to beat the Vikings to get the bye, to get where they are now. So it's not like they've gone, it's 2 different cases here. The Chiefs didn't play their starters in week 18, so they haven't played a meaningful game since – and they had the Christmas Day game. So it's been a long time since they've played a really meaningful game, where the Lions played that meaningful game in week 18. So I think they're going to be ready to go. But the Commanders, man, they're hot. They may be the hottest team in football right now. So high scoring game. Again, whatever the over under is, I don't know what it is, but I'm taking the over in this one.
No, you're sharp with the insight here. Before we move to the Sunday games, Shereen, I'm going to follow up with this. So it does feel like it could be close because Washington's played in so many of them. It is their 3rd road game in a row. Detroit had 7 wins by 7 or less, but they've escaped a couple times, including that one on Thanksgiving Day against the Bears, the poor clock management. And I go back to that Texans game with the Lions where Goff had the interceptions and they still won. If it's 4th quarter and it's tight, are you worried at all about Jared Goff in this spot, that he could maybe make a mistake or two and Washington can capitalize, or do you feel like they have confidence he can pull through for them?
Well, they certainly have confidence in him, but yeah, I would be a little concerned if I'm a Lions fan about that scenario taking place. I mean, we just seen Jaden Daniels do it so many times this year in the 4th quarter, in the final 2 minutes on the last play. He's made so many of those big plays. Now, I get it. He's a rookie, and we've never seen a rookie go on and win a Super Bowl. The odds are stacked against Jaden Daniels, but man, he's playing so well right now that I don't think there's anybody that's ruling them out to win this game or to win the NFC either. I think they've got a chance to do that, but he is going to have to play very, very well in this game. He can't turn the ball over. The Washington can't turn the ball over against the Lions. If they do, that's going to be disastrous. And you know what? Dan Campbell is right. This is going to be the loudest atmosphere that the Commanders have played in. They're going to have to do that silent count. So there's going to be some things working against them that have not worked against them despite the other road venues that they've played in. This one's going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be loud, and those Lions fans are going to make a difference. I'm going to pick the Lions, but I'm it's not going to surprise me at all if the Commanders win this game.
All right, good deal. Charean Williams, our guest here on Cova Sports TV, 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe. Check out her work on Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports, and give her a follow on the X or the Twitter, if you still call it that, of course, at Charean NFL. Charean, the Sunday matchup in the NFC, it's the 3 o'clock Eastern NBC game with the Eagles and the Rams in Philly. It's supposed to be cold. There could be some snow elements for both Philadelphia and Buffalo hosting their games. The injury to Nakobe Dean at linebacker, is this much to make of a big deal here? Maybe not until the next week if they're advancing. In your thought, that's part one of the question. Part two, is this a football game with all these talented receivers and the quarterbacks and the skill players? I get the sense it's going to be decided by the trench play, the offensive and defensive lines, the way the Rams just totally took apart the Vikings line. And then Philadelphia's O-line is mighty, mighty strong. They have a good pass rush. What do you think? Is this a line game, or will the skill guys decide it?
Yeah, with the weather being what it is, we know Matthew Stafford's history in cold weather is not great. He doesn't nobody likes playing in cold weather. So, yeah, and the fact that the running game is probably going to decide this game, and what Saquon Barkley did against the Rams this year, I don't know that this game's going to be real close. I agree with you. I think it's going to be one in the trenches. I think it's going to be one with the running game. And if you're going to pick a running game, of course, you're picking the Eagles running game in this football game. So the Rams are going to have to be able to throw the ball in the cold, catch the ball in the cold, do some things that they didn't have to do last week, obviously playing at home. So it's going to be a little bit different for them. Nakobe Dean, the Eagles are going to miss him. There's no question about that. The question is, how much are they going to miss him? And we're going to find that out. But you're right. It may be the next week before we truly find that out. I do think the Eagles win this one because of their running game, because of that offensive line, because of that front seven, even without Nakobe Dean. I think all those things point toward the Eagles winning this game. Now, if the Rams, if they can pass the ball, if they're able to do that in the cold weather and the nastiness that it's supposed to be, then they've got a chance. But I think it's going to come down to the run game. And why would you pick against Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, I won't do it. And, of course, they got a guy from our neck of the woods in the 757 area code on that defensive front, too, to go with Jalen Carter and company and Josh Sweat, who started at Oscar Smith High School here in Chesapeake. And I feel like this is no disrespect to the Rams, but had the Packers been healthy, that could have been an even scarier game. That might have been like if you were to look the seeds there a few weeks ago, you would have thought Green Bay would be a higher seed the way they were playing than the Rams, who got hot, of course. And Sean McVay's a terrific coach with those receivers led by Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, but it does feel like it's a tricky matchup. The West Coast team going to the East for the snow here. How about this fascinating one, Charean? It feels like it's the best game on the board, hands down. Ravens and Bills. I think if they played 10 times, they might split 5-5. A lot of pressure on these magnificent quarterbacks and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But I'm really intrigued by, I want to get your thought on how do the Bills go about stopping this run game and the options that the Ravens have with both Jackson keeping it, Derrick Henry running it. Do they just sell all out and say, we're going to load the box completely and make you throw? Or is that too dangerous, even with the situation that the Ravens have where one of their wide receivers, who is very, very talented in Zay Flowers, is not expected at this moment to play? We'll see come Sunday, but what's your feeling? Will the Bills just load the box up? And what matchup intrigues you the most? Is it that or something else? Yeah,
it's probably that. And, I don't know that they can, but that's going to be the way to do it. They are going to have to load up the box. There's no question about that, and try to stop that run game of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And it's really a hard thing to do. But, this is going to be the coldest game that Lamar's ever played in. He's only played in 3 games that were below 32 in his career, played in one that was 32, and that was last week. So he's 3-1 in those games. Never played anything under 27 degrees. So it's going to be different for him. And I don't care what he says. It's different. And he's not wearing a glove. So I don't know how much they're going to be able to pass. Not having Zay Flowers, who's doubtful, who we don't expect to play, as you said. And B, just the fact of how cold it's going to be. I think this is going to be a run game. I do think the Bills are going to have to load up to stop that run. On the other side, it's going to be the same thing. The Ravens are going to have to do the same thing. I mean, it's not like Josh Allen can't run, because he certainly can run. But I think that's going to be the key for both teams, is how well they run the ball. Again, it's sort of like what we were talking, the game in the trenches. This is going to be real similar to that, because both of these sites in Philadelphia and Buffalo probably aren't going to be real conducive to passing the football. It's not going to be real conducive to kicking field goals, all those things. I mean, the ground's going to be hard. It's going to be cold. That football is going to be hard. All those things that we know happen in the cold weather. And all four of those teams are going to have to overcome that. Now, the Ravens obviously play in the cold. They just haven't played in cold quite like this. I mean, the game time temperature kickoff is supposed to be 12 degrees. The feels like temperature somewhere between 2 and -2. It's going to be brutal. So it's going to be who does better in the cold, handles the cold better, who can run the ball better. And of course, we like the Ravens run game, but I'm going to pick the Bills because they're at home. I think they're more used to this type of cold. The Ravens play in the cold, but not like this. This is just different. This is a different kind of cold we're talking about.
This is amazing, Charean. I think we agree on all four games. We did not plan this or talk this out beforehand. I've got Lions, I've got Chiefs, I've got Eagles, I've got the Bills. I told someone this week I think it's going to be like a field goal game, 20-17, 24-21. Would not be surprised if Baltimore won. And I think the winner of this game can, not saying they will, but can win the Super Bowl, no question about it. I do feel like one of the two Saturday games, I'm not sure which one. One will be a nail-biter. One will turn into a blowout, even though it might not be a blowout to the end there. On the last part on this Ravens-Bills, and we'll finish up with a big picture overview, and I want to get a couple quick hitters as we let you run here on the coaching insight with what's going on, because you have some great insight and perspective which people can follow on Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports. I was telling someone today, too, that the kickers, these are two kickers that are very capable, but they've been a little shaky, both in Bass's case for Buffalo and Justin Tucker, who's a future Hall of Famer, but he missed a couple big ones in that Philadelphia game. Will the kicking game decide as potentially in your eyes, A, and then B, and we've got some wonderful tight ends in this game, maybe three of the best you have. And we talk so much about Kelsey with KC and Kittle with San Francisco and others, with Kincaid and Knox for Buffalo and Mark Andrews for Baltimore. But the defenses here, Baltimore's has gotten a lot better with Kyle Hamilton playing a deep safety. The Bills getting healthier from their first matchup. Do you feel like that first matchup has any psychological or mental edge for, say, a Baltimore winning it, maybe Buffalo for motivation? Do you throw that out the window? And what do you think about the kickers there?
Well, I don't know you throw it out the window, but obviously, they're going to have to do some different things than what they did the first time. And so, yeah, it's motivation. There's no question about that. But if you need motivation in this game, that you're probably not going to have it. The only way I think the kickers decide this is if one of them misses an extra point or a field goal or something like that. I don't know that you're going to be able to kick many long kicks in this game. And I don't know there's going to be many field goals kicked in this game, period. So I don't know that the kicking game is going to be that big of a deal. I do think it's going to be a big deal on extra points. Like, you better make your extra points because if you miss an extra point, then you're chasing points the rest of the way. And one thing I'll point out, you said we picked the same teams. If you notice, we picked all the home teams. Generally, when you pick the home teams, you're going to come out ahead. You're going to be better than 50%. That's what I told somebody last week. I said, just pick the home teams. You go straight across and pick the home teams. You're going to get most of them right. What do we have? One road team, I think, last week that won. And then you and I have picked all the home teams this week. So we're going to come out better than 50% more than likely, because the home teams usually win these games and win these playoff games. It's really hard to win on the road in the postseason.
Last one on the games, and we'll finish up the offseason here. We thank you so much for the time here. Is there a best Super Bowl dream matchup for you? Mine tends to be, and I'm a Cardinals guy, so they've been out of it for a long while here. So it seems to be a Bills-Lions, because both franchises have never had that opportunity to hoist it. Is that for you, or is it something else? What do you think?
No, I was going to say Bills-Lions for the exact same reason. Now, I grew up in the Houston area. I grew up a Cowboys fan, but I grew up in the Houston area. So I'd love to see the Texans that was my preseason pick, was the Lions over the Texans in the Super Bowl. I would love to see that happen. All of us, none of us, however you want to phrase it, think that the Texans are going to get there. I wouldn't certainly put any money on them to get there. I don't think that's going to happen. But the Bills obviously have a legit chance to get there. So for me, it would be Detroit against Buffalo in the Super Bowl, and one of those teams gets their first Super Bowl title. I think that would just be really cool. So, yeah, that's the two teams I hope go as well, just to see a team that hasn't been there win it all.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one for
hasn't
sure.
Won it all. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, because the Bills had those 4 heartbreakers.
Right.
Really the first one was the heartbreaker with the Norwood wide right and Bruce Smith from our area, big presence on those teams. Get you on this one, Charean. You had some great tweets this week about this because you are in that Texas area with Dallas and Houston, and you have some great insight and connections to what the Cowboys and Texans do. There's so much talk about what is Jerry Jones going to do with his football coach, Deion Sanders. You brought up the buyout situation. Give me kind of your thought here as we let you get ready to roll here on the coaching situations, the Cowboys, the Raiders, other job openings. How do you think this stuff is all going to shake out in the next few weeks? And do you have any real gut feel on what's the best job out there? Who's the best coaching candidate out there? Because there are some jobs, the Jets as well, that people say, oh, it's not a great job. This could be a good job. What's your feeling and perspective? And there's still some other guys that haven't been talked about as much as candidates like, say, a Pete Carroll.
Yeah, there's 2 coaches that I really like who I would hire, and that's Ben Johnson and Pete Carroll. Now, Pete Carroll is 72 years old, so it's going to be, he's not going to coach for the next 10 years for you probably. So you got to take that in consideration as well. But the guy's won a Super Bowl. I mean, he's been to 2, won 1, should have won 2, as we all know, the Malcolm Butler play down there in the goal line when they should have run the ball. So I love Pete Carroll. I think he'd be really good for a team. I don't know that he'll get a job in this hiring cycle. I don't know that he'll get a job ever again, but I would like to see somebody hire him because I think he'd be really good. I think he'd hire great staff. And then Ben Johnson, just with what he's done. I mean, we see it every week with the trick plays and everything else. And if I had to, pick a place, we're all hearing, we hear everything about the Raiders, and Ben Johnson seemed like a match, and he really likes Tom Brady, and Tom Brady really likes him, and they're willing to open their wallets for Ben Johnson. So that could be a potential landing spot. Now, one thing you look at the Raiders that you don't like is the division they're in. The 3 teams ahead of them, of course, all made the playoffs. You look at the coaches in that division with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh won the national championship, got the 49ers to the Super Bowl where they lost. Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl. We know Andy Reid's history of getting into Super Bowls, and he's even going for the 3-peat now. With 3 titles and took the Eagles to 1. So, you look at that division, that's tough sledding. You don't have the franchise quarterback, all those things. So it's not going to surprise me if he doesn't go there, but all the chatter has Ben Johnson going to the Raiders. And then, on the Cowboys, Jerry doesn't pay off. This was my point in all the tweets. Jerry doesn't pay off coaches. He did it twice with Jason Garrett. Garrett got the extension or a new contract after his contract ran out the first time. The second time, they let Garrett go and they hired Mike McCarthy. And then they let McCarthy's contract run out after 5 years. Now, they wanted McCarthy back. Mm-hmm. And McCarthy is the one who said, I'm pretty much done with this. And their plan was a short-term deal for McCarthy and then bring in Jason Witten and have McCarthy groom him to be the next head coach of the Cowboys. That was sort of the plan, and it fell apart. And I can't blame him for it, that he didn't want to do a short-term deal, and he had other options elsewhere. So you could look for McCarthy maybe to go to the Bears, where he has a great record against the Bears. We'll see if he can win with the Bears. But I think that'd be a great landing spot for him in Chicago. But the Deion chatter, obviously he talked to Jerry Jones. Jones talked to him, but it sounds so much like publicity for the Cowboys and leverage for Deion Sanders. The Cowboys don't pay coaches to go away. So why would they pay buyouts? And he has an $8 million buyout. So unless he gets some deal with Netflix to do an inside the Cowboys sort of a Hard Knocks thing, I just don't buy that's going to happen. I would put my money on, and he is the favorite on all the anywhere you want to bet is Kellen Moore, and that's who I'd put my money on. I think Kellen Moore is the next coach of the Cowboys. It's a safe play for Jerry. If you look at the 8 head coaches he's hired in his history, 4 had ties with Jerry and or were former head coaches, Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson, those sorts. Jason Garrett was not a former head coach, but he had a tie to Jerry, obviously. And then Dave Campo, head coach for Jerry, did not have head coaching experience. And then you had the other 4 coaches he hired were former head coaches elsewhere. So he's going to hire a coach. That's what he's comfortable with. He's going to either hire a coach he knows, a Kellen Moore, a Jason Witten, who obviously has no experience outside the high school ranks, or he's going to hire a coach with head coaching experience. He's talking to Robert Saleh, those sorts of coaches. Leslie Frazier's another one he's talking to, and I don't think they're serious candidates, but that's the guys he's talking to, and that's the type of coaches that he's going to hire. So put your money on Kellen Moore if you want to bet on a coach the Cowboys to hire. Deion would be, of course, be the most fun for all of us to cover. Would be Deion Sanders in Dallas, and that would be very exciting. I think a lot of eyes, even more eyes, would be on the Cowboys if Deion Sanders was here.
It's a great breakdown of it, Charean. Couldn't have done it any better. I told my co-host, though, I my sleeper pick was Jason Witten. So I got it funny. We'll see if it's one of those three, Moore, Witten, or Deion. Ultimately, it's all said and done. Well, again, check out her awesome work. It's absolutely fabulous on NBC Sports Pro Football Talk. Give her a follow on the X2 at Charean NFL. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll be chatting around the Super Bowl time.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. That's Charean Williams, our guest here on Cova Sports TV and 757 Saturday Sports Talk. We'll come on back and put the ribbon on this edition of the program. Stay tuned. You're watching Cova Sports TV.